All right. And we're live. So Ralph has grown more hair, lost like 20 years of age, and is here with me today under a different name. So we actually have another person here today. Now, Ralph, it's Cameron. Cameron is actually one of our astute kind of strategists, media buyers, kind of business builder. You're kind of everything too. I think you've been kind of adopting MPIs and also growing in different metrics in the way that you measure it, everything. So we have Cameron here today in place of Ralph. But
Yeah,
I'm
happy
happy
to
to have
be
you
here.
here. Yeah, this is fun. This is exciting. We have some kind of different perspectives. And actually, Cameron had a good topic for today. We did an internal kind of training and we're talking about time lag. And I think time lag is something that people kind of get, like people understand for the most part. Like they'll hear of like time lag or conversion lag or cash versus accrual or click versus conversion date. There's a lot of different ways to kind of measure the time lag of a user. But for Google specifically, Google gives us a few different key points as to which you can measure a little bit more accuracy on the time lag it takes from a person during their sales cycle, because we get different metrics than what the backend of Shopify does or like a third-party data studio will produce. And it gives us a little bit more insight into it. And the reason why I can do that is because it has channels that can watch traffic essentially, even if they're not seeing your ad. I mean, it makes sense because that's when you're like, hey, you didn't show up for that search. Like they know what happened and where you were and when you showed up and who saw you, etc. So,
So John, just quickly
yeah.
before you lose the meta people, this is not just a Google thing. This is also very, very relevant for people in Meta, but it stems from Google's data. So basically, they can go look in Google, get what you're going to show today, and completely change how they're doing what they're doing on that end. Or if you're running both platforms, it's going to help you either way. And just really, what is time lag?
Yep.
Just so everyone understands that.
Yep. And that's also, we're also going to cover how it affects Amazon as well, because I think that's also something important to look at. So what time lag is the time period as to which you put in $1 into a paid ad ecosystem primarily. Is what we're talking about. That's how we're conceptualizing it. And the time it takes from that dollar to actually produce revenue back to you on average per either new or existing customer. So time lag is something that is usually skipped over by clients or by businesses as a metric to watch, because typically they measure by ROAS. And ROAS is a ratio. It's not actually a measurement of the performance of that audience. It's actually measured about performance in 3 different buckets of that audience in that stage of that journey. There's a lot of like buts. And so you have to kind of funnel things down. So I'm going to use paint just as a quick example of what I mean by stages of the journey. And yes, I am the 5-year-old, so I love using paint. It brings me right back to when I used to color on my dad's PC. So if we look at, there's one big group of people, and this group of people here, this is elongated to represent your time lag. And your time lag, let's just say, is 10 days. And as I build this, it'll become kind of more evident as to how this is being understood. So this time lag is 10 days. This over here is day 1. And this over here is day 10. And what is happening in this scenario here is you have people coming into the funnel, and it's really any channel, really. If it's remarketing, that's going to have a different time lag than prospecting. Now, if you have a structured funnel, omni-channel, of how much spend you have allocated to your prospecting, to your remarketing, to your acquisition, you have a little bit more of an understanding of this. So this is going to be, if you didn't have that, this is kind of what that's measuring, is the time it takes to introduce yourself to people and then get them to buy something or get them to fill out a form. That's the action that you're looking to take. And how long does that take? Well, it's important to know that because you're going to be able to measure it in different ways. In this stage here of the day 1 through day 10, you primarily have 3 buckets of users. Bucket number 1 is going to be over here. And these are the people who just found out about you within the last like 24 to 48 hours. That's bucket number 1. These are like the day 1 people. And then you have this kind of larger middle bucket here. And these are people who are being engaged with your content. They're visiting your site a few times. Maybe they're adding to cart and they're leaving. We know they are because your average bounce rate on add to cart is 66%. So a lot of people take a lot of activity here a lot of times. This is usually where things get lost in terms of attribution tracking. And then you have this third area over here, which is your acquisition stage. So this is where people are actually in the last like 2 to 3 steps, what they're buying, like what the actions that they're taking that are leading them to a purchase. I'm going to Google the brand. I'm going to click on the email. I'm going to go back to the website in my saved history of my browser, whatever it may be. I'm going to click on a remarketing ad. So there's 3 different stages. These stages here are currently producing, let's just say, a ROAS. I'm going to use kind of what clients think of. This is producing a ROAS of 400%. And this could be a Performance Max campaign. Okay. So Performance Max is kind of doing all 3 at once, or so it claims. We know what's true, but that's what's interesting. It claims that it's doing a 400% in the funnel. Now, if you are spending, let's say at this time period, $100 a day, if you're spending $100 a day, you're sending in a level of traffic that is right here. It's sending a level of traffic, and they are going through all their stages, and they're coming out the other side. Let me do a little arrow. This is going to be a chunky little fat arrow. There we go. All the way over to the other side. So they're coming in at $100 a day. They're coming in, and this $100 a day has been static for 10 days. And now we have a nice even amount of people who are coming in, warming up, and buying. They're moving left to right. Now, if you were to say double that budget, now you're saying, okay, we're not going to $100 a day. Now we're doing $200 a day. We've doubled the amount of ad spend in our funnel. So it's no longer 100. It's now 200. So what you end up doing is you add in people in the funnel that are at a higher level. There's more people coming in here in this funnel, but the people down here that are warming up are still down here. And the people who are ready to buy, they're also still down here in this level. You can't physically add more buyers to your funnel. I can't use a bidding strategy to make people wake up one day and be like, the Nike Air Jordans model. And they don't do that. They don't just wake up and want to buy that product. So we can only add new. We can only add new people. And the level of conversion rate per group of people in these stages are somewhat like 20%. And then this could be more like 40% here. These are the stages of the people that are going through and their conversion rates. And this is more like 80%. The reason why this is the likelihood of conversion in this stage. Yes, you start a campaign, you get some sales. Yeah, that happens. That's because you're capturing these people. And then I think it starts to get better. Yeah, it's because you're capturing more of these people. Yeah, but then like as long as I crank up my brand campaign, that thing skyrockets. Yes, because you're only capturing these people. So when you're looking at omni-channel funnels, if you start to add in the most expensive and the least converting people into a stage in the funnel that takes 10 days, what happens to your ROAS? Well, your ROAS has to go down. Your ROAS is now at 300% because I took and added twice as many people into the first stage. And so I've lowered the average output of this because I've offset the amount of high traffic in the beginning that has not yet become high traffic in stage 2 and has not yet become high traffic in stage 3. Once these people that are down here start to move themselves up in their journey, which this portion here takes some time because now they're coming in and becoming more aware, but they're a higher volume of aware people that then will flow into this stage of a higher aware volume of people who are ready to buy. That process takes how long?
10 days.
10 days. There we go.
So John, as well, in practical terms of what platforms would be happening or like would be engaged with in each stage, what would that look like? So what's happening in the first quadrant? What platforms and campaign types of people looking at the second and the third?
Yep. So perfect. So if we're breaking these down into these three quadrants again, this is where attribution modeling and this is where time lag and benchmarking all kind of come into play. We're gonna skip the kind of hard part about attribution modeling and that kind of stuff, but we're just gonna address the first part. If this was a prospecting campaign, my prospecting campaign should not really measure and care of these stages over here. These stages are now excluded. I'm not trying to take my prospecting and go to people who are ready to buy. That's called Performance Max. It's just going to go to your brand people. Not prospecting. I hit the wrong audience. The warm buyers over here on the right. So my prospecting campaign, what I want to look at is if I know I have a 10-day timeline. Go ahead.
Advantage Plus as well in Meta is the problem people fall into when they're putting that up. It's you're playing in that pool too.
Oh yeah. And if you have Advantage Plus, if you have a manual campaign that is ignoring your exclusions, if you even have an Advantage Plus campaign that's ignoring the 0% people spent 0% of the ad spend spent on my existing customers, if that's getting ignored, if you're running Performance Max that is targeting your existing website traffic, that's going to have an effect. If you're doing it, even if you're capturing or excluding the brand, you excluded the people coming into Performance Max on search and shopping, but you're still capturing the same users outbound on YouTube, GSP, Discover, Display, Demand Gen. You're proactively trying to hunt down my warm traffic. So those are when we're looking at the stages of the journey that it's measured correctly. Now with benchmarking, we know that after 10 days, as an example, our 10-day period here, this first stage should have what they would look at is a 10-day look back. And I should have at least, some things like an NCAC, an NMR. I can even look at like in-app CPA. I can look at in-app ROAS. I can choose insert measurement of your choice here. There's no wrong answer. You use them all. But what I'm not going to do is say, if I want a 400% ROAS after the entire funnel is complete, I don't expect my day one first, 3 days of activity to pump out a 400% ROAS. I don't need it to pump out a 400% ROAS. I need something. What is it? I don't know. But that's what benchmarking does. We have to look at this and say, this one, let's just use like NMR, a 200% NMR in the first week. Great. So your prospecting campaigns using Data Suite, look at that and say, is your prospecting campaigns at least above a 2 NMR on your first week? If so, your first few days. In the second portion of the journey, this one might have a 400% NMR. That's this portion here. The brand campaign, 2000% NMR. Brand, right? Brand always looks good. Why? Because it's the people in this stage. So what you want to do is you want to look at your benchmarks, and you can use attribution to do this. How you would do that is say 7-day look back of my prospecting campaigns. Am I getting at least 200% of my money back on those people in this stage? Yes, good. Just make sure it doesn't drop. Now, second stage, these people may have to have a good amount of ad spend to it. It's a longer sales cycle, higher AOV, more difficult decision, higher competition, more, maybe a little bit higher priced. These people, I need, about 6 or 7 days, but we should always look at a 7-day look back window of my engagement campaigns. And is it achieving a 400%? Yes, good. Yeah. In my last step of the stage being at a 2000%, this is your brand campaign. This is things that are like, really, really, really heavy remarketing of our existing customers inside of Meta, like those things to keep LTV. Those should be really lucrative because they are basically going to buy anyway. Don't spend so much money on it. But the media mix modeling says if I spend X amount of money here and here and here on day 1 through day 5 to day 10, I should be able to see a 200%, 400%, 2000%. I should also see a CPA that is like a $10 CPA here, $10 CPA here, $10 CPA here. If I'm measuring from first click, all clicks, last click, you can kind of see like I should measure it in the portion of the stage of the journey as per the attribution model I'm looking to achieve and at that benchmark. And then after, if this is working correctly, what does that give me? It gives me a 400%. Let's just say it's low. Let's say, oh no, it's not delivering a 400%. It's 200%. Okay, if it's 200%, am I overspent here? Am I not engaging enough here? Am I overspent there? Like that's what you have to do to identify the proper amount of traffic of multimedia mix modeling based on our accrual basis of the MPIs that we're looking to achieve in Data Suite so that you can make sure everything's going well. Yeah. So the best part about this whole thing, I was finished up. The best part about this whole thing is you can't add double the amount of ad spend and get an instantaneous day 2 performance of 400% yet again. So that's just demystifying what people expect.
Yeah, exactly. So there's basically 3 core elements to that. You've got, you have a 10-day time window as one core principle. There's an overall ROAS across a 10-day window that you're looking to get. And then you have benchmarks of each quadrant in the funnel of how you can basically tweak the system to make sure it matches that 400% ROAS over a 10-day period. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Because I think when you brought this to us, that was the major thing. Coming more from the Meta side, we cared what was going on in Google, but if we were looking good or we were scaling, it didn't matter too much.
Mm-hmm.
But that was always the sort of problem. Like Meta, a lot of the big people who promote what to do on Meta, it's all based on reviewing every 3 days what you do. Okay, so lots of top of funnel changes going on there. You review after 3 days. Maybe you review after a week and you look at week over week. But if you don't know what that 10-day window, you didn't know that 10-day window exists. Once you start reaching a high point of scale and you're starting to, it's not as easy to scale. You don't have as much room to scale, and it's more, the scaling decisions are close and they take longer. That's where you really start to see you've hit a point where that 3-day window up and down, you just perpetually go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You never are able to scale. And I think it's a problem many, many people have.
Oh, yeah. You
And
spend
me,
more
this
money
is-
and
this
things
is
don't look
great.
good. Pull back.
Yeah, because they just don't know that you just have to wait. All that traffic moves down the funnel, middle and second quadrant. And hey ho, that longer time period, you have your 400% ROAS. For me, that was like, it's been an absolute game changer understanding this stuff.
Yeah, and I'm glad it's been working for you too. Is it's actually really interesting because you could technically, and this is the reason why it's nice to have an omni-channel visibility, is you may need to change channels in each stage. We do have in accounts where you have a cool WYSIWYG that no one's ever heard of before, you may have to have this model because hey, this is a cool WYSIWYG that no one's ever heard of before, i.e. there is no search traffic for that. Like that doesn't exist. So our 30% of Google spend is going where? YouTube. All right, where about our 70% of our spend is going to go to prospecting and feeder strategy, yada yada yada. Maybe we're running a little bit of YouTube Shorts and YouTube horizontal in 2 different campaigns. Like we're testing cold traffic to see where can we find this audience for this cool new WYSIWYG that no one's ever heard of before. Now, once they are clicking and engaging, those channels are mid-tier engagements. These are things like page visitors, non-buyers, or remarketing. And those are things that are like, maybe not yet are cards, or people that are engaging with content, high stop rates, high frequencies, but haven't clicked yet. This is where we're trying to re-engage them and bring them into the funnel. It could be a 50-50. Absolutely. YouTube remarketing crushes it. Now, in this stage here, where it's like these people are ready to buy, maybe our Facebook is doing just like a dedicated last 7 days of cart abandoners, and this is just hitting them with a smaller amount of ad spend, only 30% of the ad spend in this mix. Google is spending 70% on brand, and that might be even still underspent because you might not even be capturing all the people looking for you because you can spend 10 G's a day on your brand. You just don't want to. But for the stage of this journey, it might be a little bit heavier focus towards Google because they're going to Google a brand name most often when they buy. And now moving into the like how to do this visually, I'm going to share a small example out of Google Ads just so you can see how this works in real time. And I'm actually going to take an account that I am working with. I'm actually going to do a bit of a different one here. So what we'll do is we'll see this here. So this is an account that we're about to kind of rebuild some stuff on. And what you can see is if you actually, what I usually like to do is I like to usually overlay the conversions by conversion time next to the conversions. What's funny about this is actually gives you a visual representation of a time lag. And when you have a very long time lag, these actually match up a lot less. Now, this is a high volume, but when you have a short time lag, watch this. See how February 26th, we had 174 conversions. We also have 236 conversions. It's like, all right, so what this means is this is the cash versus accrual. So this is a really good representation yesterday as an example. This is a perfect comparison to show a short time lag time frame. And you can see the discrepancy between if you measure it as a whole versus if you just measure people in the beginning of the journey. So for example, yesterday, out of $6,000 in ad spend, we had 174 conversions.
Yeah.
That 174 conversions only came from this $6,179.36. That's all that means, that the 174. Now, the people that came before that ad spend means the money we spent the day before and the day before and the day before and the day before. The people that converted yesterday from no spend yesterday, but from spend the day before is the delta between these two. So there's additional 60-ish people that have purchased that had nothing to do with that $6,100 in ad spend. That is showing time lag. Now, when you're looking at the amount of conversion value, and you're looking at the conversion value here in the time frame here, this will kind of give you a prediction of the future. So we got conversion value by time, then we're going to grab conversion value. The difference between those two actually gives you a little bit of a future snapshot. We'll say, I've said this to many clients before. Hey, by the way, we made 25 grand yesterday, but in about 20 days, the 35 or the 25 grand that we made is actually going to get 34 grand. We're going to get about 30% more revenue from these people.
Yeah.
That's the time visualized.
Yeah. Do you want to just explain why?
Yep.
Why in the future they get more?
Yep. Because what this measures is all the people that you brought in prospecting, and there's some brand in there, but majority of our ad spend should be spent on cold traffic. It's not in here because we have to redo it. But so far, what this is measuring is of the $6,000, we made 25,000. There's more people from these clicks that are still going to convert in the future off of ad spend that I spent on them today. And that will turn into the 24,000 are in stage 1. Have to go through stage 2 and stage 3, about 19 days long. That's our time lag. It'll be 35,000. So what we look at here is we need to have our benchmarks. And what our benchmark is we call them like kind of, we can even do like ROAS by time. So this is ROAS, and I'll say in a time sense here. What ROAS by time is conversion value. If we make a report here that says conversion value by conversion time divided by cost, and we put this in a percentage format, we can actually see what the ROAS is without time comparative to the conversion value by cost metric. And that will actually tell you if you have a 1-day ROAS of X, you'll get a 20-day ROAS of Y. So you can kind of predict what's going to happen based on what has been happening before. And where is the conversion value by cost? There we go. So if I stick these next to each other, did I put them next to each other? No, I didn't. I think I stuck one way over there.
I find even just to say a 19-day time lag window is crazy. So they'll make a decision and then they don't see it for 3 weeks. That would be a nightmare if you didn't know this existed and you're trying to within that make decisions, change things.
Or if you scale up week 1, you're like, it's not going good. You scale up week 2 and you're like, it's still not going good. Man, you're 5 days away.
Yeah, it's like that thing with the gold. Just keep digging. You'll find the pot of gold.
Yep. And so here's what's great. Yesterday, if we get a 4X yesterday, we know that we'll maintain a 556 in a rolling 20-day average. That's what this essentially means. So what's cool is as you increase ad spend, you're actually really only going to see that one go down day over day. You can take this $6,000 up to 10. This 4 will drop down to a 2. This 555 may drop down to a 480. Because on day 1, measuring what happened day 1, when you flood your funnel with only cold traffic and you paid for all that cold traffic and that cold traffic did not buy yet, what happens to your ratio? You get lopsided. Yeah. So that time lag, and what's funny is you can actually see like this metric. This is a cumulative total. You can imagine why this time lag is so short. I'll give you a bit of a hint. We're running Performance Max. So this Performance Max is skewed heavily towards a short time period. Now here's where this thing can get a little bit jinky. When you look at this here, it says it takes up to 3 days after impression for most of your conversion data to be reported. What this means is that after they saw my ad, not clicked on my ad, they saw my ad. It was 3 days after that, then on average as to when most people convert. This is a wrong metric for this company. Why? Well, in a lot of the campaigns that they have that they were running the PMax, and it's been trained on for a very, very, very long time. Unfortunately, this is their rebuild that they try to do, but it was essentially what ended up happening here is all of this, like thousands and thousands, like this $2 million worth of data that's been teaching, the algorithm on like why this thing just scales up to the moon whenever it wants. Yeah. Unfortunately is, and I won't know if it's pulled up because we paused it because of this issue here, but you can kind of see. I mean, it was a majority of, I think I probably only captured like the last probably like 3 days of this thing, but it's like, here's your brand name doing all the work kind of stuff. So this thing was doing a lot of brand. Well, what's your time lag on brand? What would be like a time lag on a brand campaign?
Straight away, like
Yeah, if I'm going to Google my
1 day.
brand, yeah, exactly. If I'm going to Google my brand and I'm going to convert, or if I Google a brand and convert really, really quickly, yeah, if you convert really quickly, you're going to have a really short time lag in the account if the account is capturing the majority of people in the last step of the funnel. So this is incorrect. We can't use this. And it's fine, whatever it is, but it is something that if we look at like a search campaign, now it's 8 days. Yeah, okay. So now if we don't take the Performance Max retargeting our branded customers, you can see all of a sudden this jumps from 3 days to 8 days on branded cold traffic on search. Like, wait a minute, then what happens if you do like a non-brand, which I don't even know if we have any in here yet, but I'll stop
here. John, could you also just specify like how you get this to pop up? Because I remember when you first taught it, it was only, there's only certain parameters if you look at that you'll be able to see the pop-up of telling you your time lag of a campaign.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting is it's never consistent. Like here, I'm doing the same view. If I do yesterday, it's not popping up now. That's what's really weird is it won't always pop up for you. I found that if I make the right one conversion and the left one cost, and then I refresh, I know.
So that's the hack.
That's sometimes the hack. Sometimes they'll pop up down here. If not, you do have to just go into any underlined metric down here and it will pop up for you. So if you find that one that's underlined, there you go. That's your average. So when in doubt, go into your account level, which is right here, and then find any sort of metric that has to do with conversions, and it'll give you that time lag. If it doesn't, sometimes you can kind of like change screens and then it'll like pop up back here, but it's not always reliable, unfortunately. You can always use this campaign column here, and you can kind of see the difference. Okay, this is 2 days, 3 days, 8 days, and then this one's 2 days. So if your product category was actually working well and they were actually converting those people non-brand, you would actually get a nice little tidbit here. And that also will tell you in the future, okay, if we want to scale this up, by the way, it's got an average time lag of 5 days when we start to pump this product out, people see and convert. So we'll launch our campaign, or we'll scale our campaigns on day one, but on a day one scale and a 5-day time lag, you scale day one, you start measuring day 6 to day 13. That next week is the time period where that is actually now warm traffic, because it's gone through the first stage, second stage, third stage, popped out the other side. First day that starts to happen, you measure the next day, and that's your time period before the scale, and then after time lag, week of after scale. And that will tell you, okay, we went from spending 10 and making 20 to spending 20, making 40. Like it was a perfect 2x. In the middle, it was still spending 40 to make 10. It just needed that time to catch up.
Yeah, and it really, really works. I mean, I've got an account where it's like a 13 day time lag. So we'll scale, the NCAC will go up and look worse. We'll just wait 1 week, drops down. Scale,
right.
Wait, drop. It's just the same pattern. And of course, if you get like good craze and things, it will make it jump on a bit, or the seasonality changes and they have like a buying season. But that pattern of scale, wait, scale, it fits perfectly with the time lag window that they have in Google Ads.
Yeah. Good way to do a time lag in Google Ads is take all of your prospecting campaigns, non-brand search, non-brand shopping. That will measure when people are product aware, when they're in like the bottom of the funnel. That's how long they take to convert. If you look at a YouTube campaign and that thing says like 41 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that might take a month. And it's not because people don't want it. It's because people are busy seeing 4,000 ads a day on average, and you need to keep reminding them for a month. Whatever. Fine. It is what it is. But that's how your market buys. So kind of cool stuff there.
Yeah, I love it. It's brilliant.
Now, on Amazon, I want to get some questions because we had like 40 questions dumped in here as soon as I got here. Here's something that's interesting is this is much larger than just like, Google to Google or Facebook cold traffic to Google. This is everything. Where this gets complicated is now identify omnichannel flows and time lag between paid media and all the way to like returned organic secondary purchases. That's a time lag. And when you're talking about even off-site activity, if you have an Amazon store, that's where we see this typical time lag where that doesn't actually equate to our metrics. If you are running Amazon, you cannot do anything that we just did today exactly like how we did it. You have to measure how much leakage do you have to Amazon and then benchmark from there, knowing, okay, if I need $150 NCAC, I'm okay with a $250 because half my sales happen on Amazon and I can't measure over there. An example of this is after we started to scale from 50 grand a week. here, I'll just do the number, an average of 50 grand a week here. And then we scaled up about 6 months or 5 months later to 130 grand. I should see a lift. Now, do I have my cost per new customer went down from 226? It is working well. So it's scaling up efficiently. It's down to 177. But
so that's just the cost per new customer Shopify.
In Shopify. So it is going lower. So what that means is if I'm driving more new customers, my Amazon, if I'm spending $3,600 a week and making 47,000, I should be able to spend the same $3,700 a week, 39. I'm $200 difference, but now my 40 grand on average is 84,000 on average. So for $200 more spend, I get $40,000 more per week. It's not coming from Amazon, but that is the time lag lift. You're going to see campaigns spend more and achieve more, but your campaign may spend 100% more, but your campaign may achieve or attribute only 50% more because 50% also bought on Amazon. So you could have an off-level scale. And what that means is that your 7-day or 1-day look back, your MER targets, if you need a 3 and you're getting a 2, you're fine in getting a 1. See how that kind of, we separate those out. So we got.
And is there any way to identify that's what's happening with Amazon?
Like typically, if you look through the search terms that the Amazon campaigns are going for, and they're a hefty brand, and I mean hefty brand as to what you're spending on. I mean, if 80% of your conversions are coming from 20% of your search terms, and those are brand, the way that you test this is increase meta spend, and then look for the rise in revenue without needing the rise in cost in Amazon.
Okay, yeah.
And then if you say, hey, 10 days, okay, if I increase spend here by 30% in 10 days, that next week, did the week after skipping the 1 week of scale, did this also rise what you added at the top line in spend? And that becomes company MER. But 20% of my spend in Meta, I got 10% more in Meta, I got 10% more in Amazon, 20. But
yeah, so I think if you're working with clients, it's all a case of just saying, hey, we know this work, this is what happens. Here's the data, here's your time lag. Let us run this experiment, have your Amazon team, because most people have Amazon separately. Like have them not do anything. We're going to increase spend and this is what's going to happen.
Yep.
Prove your case right. And then it's like, okay.
Exactly right. And they're going to go through all omni channels. And the way that this also gets a little bit even crazier, this is why the new versus returning data is so important, is because we won't be able to track everything. When we look at the amount of overlap, this is where things go haywire. So this campaign here, we said, hey, we're gonna take our campaign spending and we're gonna tank it by 30% to kind of prove a point. And you know what? For fun, let's go to first touch. All right. Mm-hmm. First click. Here's time lag enacted, and this is why my companies panic. You drop 30% of your meta spend. It's the only change we actually tried to do. That's the only actual input that we did in the account. We didn't tell the Google team. It was me. I just didn't do anything. We didn't tell YouTube anything. We didn't tell App11 anything, and we didn't tell Amazon anything. Actually, that was us. We actually pulled it down a little bit, but we really only made our change here in Meta. And so now your App11 team is going, I lost 30% of my MER for no reason. What am I doing? And then your Google Ads team goes, oh my God, I didn't touch anything. How am I 40% down? I didn't do anything. And then your YouTube team goes, I'm gone 50% down. I didn't do anything. And now you got 4 companies scrambling.
And what do they do? They scale back.
Yeah, and exactly. All because Meta said, hey, you know what? We had a billing issue.
Yeah.
All right. So then watch this. Your Meta team is going to go increase 30%. And your App11 and your Google Ads and your YouTube ads are like, they're panicking for like a week. Okay. And so now when you take that 8 to 14 and the next week you say, hey, you know what? Go ahead and push that Facebook back up. And as you push only Facebook back up another 30%, you know, your Amazon team is saying like, all right, everything's looking good. We're back to normal. Thank God. And then the App11 is just like, no, I scaled back and I'm not able to recuperate. Like you said, they pulled back and they went, I don't know how to get in. Nothing was wrong with you. You just pulled back because you didn't know why you needed to pull back. And then Google Ads said, you know what? I flip-floppied the flingamajig and I got everything back to normal because they're making shit up right now as they go along. And then the YouTube ads team says, well, I have no idea, but I please for love God hope that no one notices how my 43% less new visits made 42% more revenue. I didn't do anything, but I'm going to make up a cool story. And now you still have 4 different companies making up shit that's actually going on this week, all because, you know, Facebook started spending again.
Yeah.
This is where this is time lag. Everything's affected, overlap. Now imagine this for a year straight with 4 different companies that never thought about this.
Well, I mean, we've been in the situation. It was the past. I think this is the perfect example because this is what everyone goes through, and that's that up and down I talk about. It's just like panic, oh no, and it's just a case of you just wait, time lag type of thing. But I know you've got tons of questions, John.
Let's do some Q&A.
Jump onto them.
John Moran's dog, best YouTube live, long time listener. Thanks, thank you, sir or madam. I don't know. My dog's a boy, so you'll be a boy. All right. Can you quickly talk about what kind of optimization you usually make when running YouTube ads? Do you ever exclude channel placements when optimizing? So I only exclude channel placements when optimizing if they're apps and kids games. Those little hungry children just love to click on things. They just are click hungry. So that is usually where I will typically remove. Now, my biggest optimizations that I will make outside of my interest targeting and keyword targeting is going to be the demographics. So I don't take too much weight into who they are identified by. I take weight into how Google identified them. So for example, if Cameron's an 18 to 24-year-old female that is converting very well, I don't care that Cameron's not an 18 to 24-year-old female, but I'm going to optimize for what Google thinks is an 18 to 24-year-old female. So I will never usually, unless it's just like oh my gosh, this is a bad idea to start this way. Like you're not going to sell, adult diapers to an 18 to 24-year-old group. Just bad idea. Use some common sense. But I will only start excluding when the data is showing that those are the people that I need to be marketing towards. It may be identified wrong, but those are still the people that I need to go after. So I would only start to hack off like, hey, for whatever reason, 18 to 24-year-old is spending the most, converting the least. Everything else looks great. This probably works best for that group. It's just not hitting them. So let's exclude them for now while we go figure out what's wrong. Now, why isn't that hitting? Because Google's data is not always correct. So I don't care that the color is purple and it's actually blue. I'm going to spend more on purple because purple's selling. That's kind of how we have to react to the data. But it's always channel is only on apps and kids games because auto targeting means whatever stuff Cameron's into. I don't know what Cameron's into music wise. And if I find out he likes techno and I'm showing ads on techno pages, I don't care. I'm trying to find Cameron. Cameron, we have to be on techno pages. I found Cameron. So that's how we have to think about that.
Got it.
How should I allocate the budget between PMax and standard shopping in the feeder strategy? Omni-channel traffic, 70% Google, 30% Meta, time lag, 10 days, industry appeal. So if you have 70% Google, 30% Meta, I would actually use about a initially 50-50 start of allocation. However, I will let CPC dictate what I would need to do next. If you're running 50-50 and your CPCs are very close, drop your ROAS target on your standard shopping campaign lower, and then increase your ROAS target on your PMax campaign higher. You're trying to force the CPC down in PMax to go display, and you're trying to force the CPC up in standard shopping to get for positions for quality searches. One does proactive inbound, one does remarketing. So I would look at that because you're not heavy Meta, you can afford to be heavy standard shopping. And then let's say this works well for you and your ROAS targets are in line. You can see that you got $1 clicks on PMax and $4 clicks in standard shopping and everything looks good. Only scale standard shopping. Do not touch PMax. Only scale standard shopping. All right. I have a campaign set at TCP of $100, but I'm currently getting 50-ish, both in-app, Google, and slightly lower in reality. Should I start bringing my TCPA down or keep the same? No. Keep your TCPA the same. Start slowly scaling. Now, I'm glad you asked this question on this video because as you slowly scale, it's okay for the short term for your metrics to start looking worse. You're just filling the pipeline with more colder people who have not purchased yet. Be patient. It will come back up. But what you're saying is your campaign is actually Google's trying to get down to $100 or get up to $100 TCPA goal, and you're already exceeding that, and Google is just going to make you more aggressive. Great, scale. That's what you need to do now.
Your dog asks a lot of questions, Sean.
He's very talkative.
I think there's like 30 from John Moran's dog.
We'll go as fast as we can. Have you tested the feeder strategy with shopping PMax, or PMax includes all its assets? And no, I don't actually include all assets because that gives PMax the ability to go proactive target anybody they want on any channel with any type of inventory they need to get rid of that day. And like Gmail ads, it can dump 80 grand in Gmail ads one day if it wants to. I won't give it that sort of control. So PMax feed only seems to be the safest, at least. When running YouTube ads, do you need a higher frequency per user to make it work? Well, it depends on the stage of the journey. So are you doing proactive? Are you doing re-engagement? Are you doing remarketing? Those are things that you have to ask yourself. On proactive, you never really want to go above a 2. In your re-engagement, and keep it 3 and 4, sometimes maybe 5. If you have a high time, if you have a high, time lag or a higher AOV, they need more consideration. And if you're doing remarketing, you can be comfortable in a 8 to 12 all day long. As long as you're not spending all of your money there, don't do that. But what you want to balance is how much money do I want to put in the stage and how much do they need to be in that stage? And that's when you measure my proactive. If this frequency is 5, I can see mine can't go up and my spend go up, but no new customer. Okay, maybe I'm overshowing. So you have to look at it in your own light. If you're doing a prospecting campaign on YouTube sequencing, I'm going to show them 37 ads. Okay, well, that's a sequencing campaign with 37 ads is 37 frequency unique. That might kill people. So maybe not do that. And you can kind of see as they start to go through that sequencing campaign, I kind of lose them by the 6th ad. Okay, there's your prospecting funnel. That's where you get to lose engagement. After 6 ads, they go away. So make your funnel 6 ads, rearrange those ads to find out the best version of those 6. What needs to be shown for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So it's always a unique use case, but hopefully there's some tools to like break it down and how to measure it in bite-sized chunks at the stage of their journey. Is this normal in Google Ads? The past 30 days, I've had 7,000 visitors from Google Ads. When I create a marketing list, it only populates about 500 people. If so, how do you go about your marketing? I don't actually remarket Google Ads at all. I remarket, unless it's YouTube, I will remarket solely on Meta. My opinion, Google is a very poor platform to remarket because of what the user is doing at that time. If I'm on YouTube, I'm looking for something. I'm trying to achieve something. I'm looking for reviews. Maybe it's in Meta and Instagram. I'm just trying to find something interesting. You know, I have nothing to do here. My thumb is on autopilot. That's the time where it's like, hey, remember me? Like, oh yeah. But I don't want to be like, hey, you know that cat video your wife just sent you? I'm going to show you a go-kart instead. It's like, you know, it lands less. All right. You often say the standard shopping drives more new traffic and new customers than PMax. Says PMax feed only primarily get impacted by site traffic because dynamic marketing takes too much credit. Oh yeah. PMax feed only is primarily driven by site traffic. That's why feeder strategy works. What you have to do is adjust the level of new traffic into PMax, but that's also dependent upon what PMax can capture. If you've been spending $100,000 a day on YouTube on Meta, for an example, and you launch a $10 PMax and a $20 standard shopping campaign, or if you launch a $10 PMax and a $1,000 standard shopping campaign, you may have way too much traffic that PMax can already capture before your small standard shopping campaign that's only spending 1% of your budget, even at $1,000 a day, would even have an impact. It's like 1/100th remarketing in PMax that users, because I have 100 million people I get to capture. You added 10,000. Great. Your ratio went 0.1% difference. Like that's the thing, is you have to overload PMax with new traffic, but you have to take case into, well, where is PMax going now? And that's where you have to look at your omni-channel spend. High meta spend, PMax campaign is going to spend 10 grand a day before it can break out into people it can't target anymore. So that's how we have to think about this. You previously mentioned you had a feeder strategy for YouTube. Yes. So feeder strategy for YouTube is actually fairly simple. You want to develop a own landing page. You want to develop an isolated page that only your YouTube traffic can go to. That's step number 1. It's easy to identify that in this silo because it's not going to necessarily grab, and send users to different directions. So you want to keep an isolated traffic into a landing page that's hidden from the sitemap. You want to send 2 different forms of traffic in there. One is a CPM or CPV, whichever bidding strategy you prefer, on a sequencing campaign. The sequencing campaigns allow you to, and I'll make a video about this. Sequencing campaigns allows you to actually set people down a path. You know what? This is actually worth the 2 minutes explanation, because I'll probably see a lot of this. Actually covers the time lag issue too, and feeder strategy and aware and unaware. So this is actually right up our alley. But I'm gonna share screen on something. Let me do this. Let me pause camera because I want to be very fast. I know we have like 13 minutes left, and I don't want to take too much time on this, but it's really important for everyone to see. Just give me 1 quick second. I'm pulling this up. Please be patient. You know what? I'll share screen so you're all not bored. Who cares? You're all just going to watch what I do for a minute.
And they're not all questions, by the way. Sometimes it's just words of encouragement. So no
problem.
Good. You might get through them all.
Hey. All right. So we're going to go back to when we first started doing this in, I don't know, sometime right around here. So we did campaign type is video. All right. Small little campaign here. Well, we spent 30 grand in like this, December to January. This is a sequencing campaign. So this is what these are overlooked, and a lot of people don't like them because they don't report conversions very well, and everyone measures by ROAS. So this is what you overlook sometimes, which is actually a really cool sequence. So I'm going to put everybody through a 4-step sequence, and my step sequence transition is view. This means, okay, if you view ad number 1, then you're going to view ad number 2. If you did, you view ad number 3. If you did, you view ad number 4. But if you skip one, I still send you through the same sequence. I'm just now your transition step is going to be, did you get impressed by the ad? So I'll still make you watch all 4. You have a 4 frequency, however you go through this funnel. But now I get to see the drop off points. And because I labeled this one, sequence 2 skipped 1, sequence 3 skipped 1, you can kind of see the path that people took. So when you measure the actual sequence, I can see if in this, oh man, not time period of that. I go back to my time period. Let's do here to here. I think that covers it. Yeah. All right. So now we see when they see video 1, they got a 0.32% click-through rate. But when they skip 1 and watch 2, it goes up. So they skipped an ad and it went up. And then they skipped ad number 1, but then they watched number 3 and we still kept it pretty decent. Then they skipped 1 and watched 4, they still were pretty decent. When they watched 1 and then they watched 2, it actually has gone down. If you watched 1, skip 2, watch 3, it went down. So I can kind of see that my ads, that when you kind of force them through a position, they don't really like it. But if you give them the option, if they skip 1 and then they start to see these other 3, perfect. Number 1, 2, and 3, and 4 work best, but you have to actually show number 2, then 4, then 1, then 3. That's your level of hierarchy now because of level of engagement. Once we have identified that, we started to scale up a bit, and you see conversion starting to rise from going from 3 to 16 to 21. And then we got banned because this is selling like a sexual product, and they don't like erectile dysfunction products on YouTube for supercharged male stack. So anywho, it was going good until YouTube hated us. But that sequencing campaign guarantees a 4x frequency on all of your cold traffic, which is so much better than if you look at every other video campaign that is a like a conversion campaign like this one is here, and you look at your average frequency on a conversion campaign is actually quite low. So your average frequency per user on these campaigns is 1.7. My sequence is a 4. So if you're like, oh no, I keep adding in more ad spend and nothing's happening. Yeah, because you're not actually re-engaging anybody. You're just burning through people faster. Knock it off. These won't convert very well. Yes, this is your feeder. This is brand new people that haven't seen this before. So you combine these two together. Now, we didn't do that because we were testing everything. We were testing a whole bunch at the same time. And then we started building everything else everywhere else, yada, yada, yada. We actually ended up launching our own YouTube account because it works so well. So this is old data. But you can kind of see when your retargeting campaigns can get a 20x on people. So you can absolutely build a feeder, but you're not going to do it with only conversion campaigns. They stick at 1.5 to 1.7 permanently. So you have to get creative, use different type of sequencing. You could pay a whole lot less for the people. Your CPMs are cheaper than your conversion campaigns typically. And this is a way to warm up cold traffic and tell them a story. But if you measure it by this way, you will fail. Cool. All right, let's go.
Back to it.
Yeah. What would be your approach strategy if you knew your client's main customer acquisition and lead gen channel is YouTube ads and they get conversion via clicks from YouTube's? What would be your approach strategy if you knew your client's main customer acquisition? Okay, so I would actually start to break down by what we call them desires. So create different hooks. So if you know YouTube works well and you got a good YouTube mix and traffic's new, cold, plentiful, converting well, start to test different reasons why they're buying. So I would have 5 different ad groups on a proactive campaign. You can use sequencing for this. This is an excellent use of that example right there. Have a sequencing campaign about 4 videos that talk about back pain versus, I'm making crap up here, so my apologies. Back pain versus headache versus knee pain, and you sell Tylenol. Great. So now you're attracting, what are their ailments? And you can even do that on YouTube outbound and do inbound search combined. Small amount of ad spend on YouTube search. Hey, when people come in, they really buy this one. Let's test that one as well. So you want to have an omni-channel flow to it because then you can also remarket those same people that came in. They can also assist each other there. But I would start to break it down, be like, do you want to have more hair, less back hair, more back hair? You can kind of start to go after those type of people with the ads. The targeting is not going to matter. The ads are what's going to do the work. Google will target whatever it wants, but try to find those different variations, measure by click-through rate, show them a few different ads, and then start to build out the new proactive funnel you found in sequencing that are actually resonating when you show people 3, 4, 5 ads around the same topic.
Yeah, Reddit's a good place as well to find ideas for that kind of stuff, to see what people are asking and then go down the thread.
Even ask the people, Google Trends. Those are great too.
Yeah. Comments on organic YouTube.
Yeah.
Everything. Get into the community.
Yep. All right. Standard shopping is performing well. Do you see any advantage in using PMax as a complementary feeder strategy? Yes, absolutely. Client management in-house time lag is 10 days. I would use a PMax campaign Now, if they have a high amount of ad spend on Meta, you're going to have a high amount of ad spend on PMax, unfortunately. And you're really only going to start to actually help your standard shopping when PMax maxes out the traffic that it has been finding from Meta. So don't do this if it's like an 80-20. Only do this if it's like a 50-50 or more spend on Google. If it's already working well, you don't need to do it, because most likely, if you have a high amount of ad spend on Meta anyway, let Meta do the remarketing. It's going to be better at it. All right, Jose. Standard shopping campaign is getting fewer conversions in app. ROAS 40% over the past few weeks. Should I look at increasing ROAS in this campaign to get more warm traffic? Well, I would say if you're bringing in the people, what else has changed, if anything else has changed? And it could be like we used to show up more often for this search term, and now we actually show up for this search term more often. It could be as simple as that. I have like 20 different variations before I would say like change bidding strategies. Search terms, did the products that are being shown week over week switch? This search term used to show up for that. Now it's showing up for this. That also could be something that happens. Did competition all of a sudden spike up spend? Did one of your best selling, or maybe even like a third or fourth best selling product all of a sudden go out of stock? If all of that is like, hey, same search term, same clicks, and the only thing that's changed is conversion rate, and no other competition has come in, and we didn't make any other omni-channel change as well, then I would actually test increasing your budget. Sounds stupid, but what may end up happening, and this is where a lot of quick wins can happen, is if you increase your budget, you show more often for the people who need to be more click heavy before they decide. And the reason why increased budgets also increase conversion rate, besides having the fact of positioning, is they get to have more visits that same day. If I'm looking for best baseball glove and I know 7 manufacturers, I keep searching, I keep clicking on you. All of a sudden, that when I'm getting closer to the buying decision, your ad is now dead because you have spent all your money, and now my decision just went from which 5 companies to now which 4 companies I'm going to buy from. You went away. So ad spend can actually increase if there is an increase in demand. You have to increase your ad spend because more people will take more clicks. It's not just 1 click, 1 conversion. I need 1 more click. No, these people are now maybe having 2 or 3 or 4 more clicks before a conversion. Same amount of people, higher activity. Test higher ad spend first. All right. Hey, John. Hey, Cameron.
I could do a Ralph impersonation, maybe.
I would love to see that.
I think I'd have to practice.
I was going to say, I'm going to call you out live. Do it.
Yeah. No, I don't have one yet. He always did the Boston type of thing, but yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
need to practice that one.
Get in the car. All right. So, John, hey, Cameron, do you have any recommendations for a situation where a new client, there are some poorly set, poorly performing campaigns, but that have months of data? Oh, okay. Well, I would actually not even look at anything. So I actually don't really do audits. I do action plans, and I do them off of company goals. So typically I'll like export products, go through a whole bunch of, new versus returning profitability, quarter over quarter grow and scale, to then set up what do I need to do instead. My opinion is look at, I don't know what country, e-commerce versus lead gen industry, I don't know what you're in. A good use case though right now is to say, if you need to restructure things, look at Q2 2024 now, because that's the stage you're going to go into. What worked back then, that's what's going to start to come out here in about the next 30 days. So you can kind of preemptive strike your action plan by saying, hey, last year we saw this increase. I think if that's going to happen again, we can push into it by doing A, B, C, and D on all of these channels. So look at what happened earlier last year, but future this year, Q2 2024, that would be a really good set to say, like, okay, I have poor campaigns and poor set, but I have months of data. Hopefully it's years of data. Or you look at and analyze the months of data, what's been happening, reallocate your ad spend to react to what the business is seeing growth in.
Yeah, I think just to jump on that one too, because it might be that they're meaning like machine learning data, like long history of the campaigns. Mm-hmm. And if you want to change stuff, just do it slowly, gradually, I find, rather than disrupt everything and blow it up.
Yeah, like we have a campaign where we have a company that sells, really nice expensive cases, that you can use for guns and camera equipment, that kind of stuff. And I remember you and we were looking through, hey, the campaigns are set up properly, working well, but we noticed that this one product that was actually a bestseller is getting a lot less attention. So we reallocated ad spend and reconfigured campaigns to give a lot more attention to that product. And we're kind of like, not back on it, but we saw like a good scale, some wavering, put a refocus emphasis on where we should have been before, campaigns were changed kind of thing by clientele, not necessarily us, whatever it is. And then it started to scale back to where it was again. So it's like, okay, so that's where you have to look at this as bidding strategies very rarely ruin companies. you know, you can really not mess up Nike. Even if you pause all their Google ads, you're not going to hurt them. So you also have to wonder, like, how much am I helping them versus how much am I hurting it? So if you're like, hey, I'm looking through and I have good data and the company's doing well, you can be a little bit more bullish with your changes and just start doubling down on things that are working.
Yeah, fair.
What is the risk of setting a TCPA too high, if any? Yeah, if you set your TCPA, well, not really. If you set your TCPA too high and it's like way far out of range, like 5,000, you're getting $10. You're not actually setting any sort of restriction caps. What I mean by restriction cap is the delta between what you're getting and what you're asking it to get is how much aggressiveness you're allowing it to be. So if it's getting a $100 CPA and you set a $150 CPA, it can float between this area here. If you're setting a $100 CPA and you have a $5,000 CPA and something gets up more activity, like, hey, we're getting more clicks on this product, but no sales, Google's like, well, I got some room to go. Let's kind of go crazy for a long time this way and see if anything comes out of it. So I usually like to set my targets like 2 times higher. So it allows it to ebb and flow, but not go crazy in one direction because it's going to hit that threshold. I do have to jump now. I'm so sorry. We're kind of at target in a time. I think we only got through like a third of the questions. So we should probably do like a Friday where we just do pure Q&A and just
or like take the questions and just write answers and then post them as shorts or something.
Yeah, because there's like 30 more questions that we didn't get to. I'm sorry, everybody. All right. So yeah, we'll probably do like, maybe next week. Actually, next week, we're going to have to change time. It's my daughter's birthday. And so I won't be here. I like her more than all of you, I'm sorry to say. But it's my daughter. What am I
John Moran's dog will be there, though, yeah.
Exactly. And my real dog will be there, too, which would be great. We'll have everyone there. So we'll reschedule for next week. It might be just earlier in the week, like Wednesday or something, or push to like early the week afterwards. But I think what we'll probably want to do is do a big Q&A one, too. So we just can nail all the questions, make sure that nothing's going haywire with these accounts for too long before we can help address them. Awesome.
All right. Thank you very much for having me on, John. Nice to join you.
This is fun. This is fun. I appreciate it. And thank you all for joining, asking questions. I know there's a whole bunch of the questions. We didn't get through like half of them. So really appreciate everyone. And yeah, we'll see you all next time we're on.
Ciao, ciao.